Welcome back to the Thinking Critical Comic Book Podcast. We've got the Comics Aficionados live for you here on the channel today. We got a big show. We got lots of X-Men news. We've got the Ray Fisher, Geoff Johns allegations. We got the follow-up to DC's round robin tournament and some other big happenings within the comic book industry this week. Got a fun panel today. It's been an interesting time booking the show today. We've had a bunch of last-minute fallouts. We're still waiting on Uel Carter. But we do have a great panel that finally decided they were able to make it. First time on the channel, Jamie Andreasen. How you doing, Jamie?
I'm doing very well. I'm very happy to be here, and I appreciate the invite.
Well, I'm glad that you could make it, brother. I'm glad to have you finally on the channel. I know you've been part of these streams for a while.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Next up, Doc, a last-minute replacement for yourself. You weren't supposed to be here, but it sounds like your automotive works got done a little early.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make it. I had initially told you, no, you have to count me out this week. I got my car going in for inspection and emissions and an oil change and tires, but they, my dealership actually did a great job and knocked me out in like an hour and 45 minutes. So it was kind of dope.
Never happens.
I know.
It's a good thing you could make it. It was an X-Men kind of panel today, so we got some things to talk about.
That's why I was really bummed that I wasn't going to be able to make it.
Absolutely. Next up, we do have award-winning comic book editor, writer, Joe Corallo. How you doing, Joe?
I'm all right, Wes. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm glad that you could make it. And finally, we do have the curmudgeon of critical himself, just Pele, a comic book retailer from the Midwest. How you doing, Pele?
Yeah, a little headache. I think a little tequila bit me last night, but I'm all here. I'm here.
Well,
I'm here.
It's all about moderation, Pele.
I know. I'll figure that out one day.
So let's get right into it. The big news, we've got Reign of X. We knew that we were getting Children of the Atom, which is already launched, Way of X, and then we have X-Corp coming up. But now we know they're relaunching X-Men back to a #1 series. It'll be the third time they've done this in the past 36 months. This time with Gerry Duggan on the flagship title. We're getting a secret project from Leah Williams and Valerio Schiti in the middle. And then we're getting another secret project from Jonathan Hickman moving over from the flagship title. All right, Doc, I know you've been champing at the bit to talk about this. What are your thoughts on the current state of X-Men and these new developments?
Yeah, this is about exactly where I expected we would end up. Hickman just it was so obvious he mentally fucking checked out of this shit like a year ago.
Yeah.
And he basically just left all the clowns that he hired to run the ship for a while. And now he's even giving over the flagship title to generic Duggan. Good job. This is, oh my, what else can you possibly say except for generic Duggan on the headline X book?
Well, what if the Hickman secret project isn't Moira X? What if it's Uncanny X-Men?
Then it's stupid. Then why did you bother to change X-Men over and relaunch it and give it to generic Duggan if you're just going to relaunch Hickman on another X-Men title, but this time with an adjective on it? It's stupid. It's legitimately dumb. I mean, it's the whole thing here is it's rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. You're giving Leah Williams another book. I mean, she hasn't failed enough every other time you've given her a book. I mean, hey, 11th time is a charm. Then Gerry Duggan's already gotten what? One book definitely canceled. Marauders down to about effectively 0 sales. It just rots on the shelf in my local shop. I don't know about anyone else. They still buy way too many copies of it, but it just rots on the shelf. There's like 4 rows of it at this point. I could go back and pick up issues from about 8 on off the new release shelf because there are too many to even bother to stick in the back issue bins. But no, it's stupid. Okay, what they should have done. There's no reason for an Uncanny book to launch right now in the middle of this whole thing, unless they actually plan on finally getting to all the shit that anyone actually cared about from House of X and Powers of X. What did everybody care about? They cared about Moira. They cared about the AI stuff. They cared about the Nimrod stuff. They cared about the moving into the future over the next 1,000 years stuff. They cared about the humans and AI kind of merging together to create artificial, human hybrid evolution. And they cared about the phalanx. Mm-hmm. And what have we seen out of that so far? A tiny little 3 issues that involve the Children of the Vault. That's it.
We saw Nimrod has been reconstituted and is about to come online.
Okay.
That was one moment in a story.
Yeah, we had all right, so you got 3 issues and 2 pages. They just it's pretty obvious that after Hickman got called out for essentially plagiarizing the Harry August book, that they had to entirely kind of decide what the hell they were doing here. Because
Joe, I mean, you're a writer. Is that the sense that you've gotten that the allegations of plagiarism have derailed what was the planned story for Jonathan Hickman's X-Men?
I don't think allegations of plagiarism have stopped a lot of people from doing things in comics, but I don't know. I've been thinking about it some more, and I think there's also a chance that this new book that Hickman's going to be writing is going to end up being he's going to start taking the Scott Snyder to the DC comics approach of I'm just going to be the events guy. And so maybe he's just going to be launching some kind of event. And then he's I'm just going to deal with the big picture stuff. And every 6 months, I'm going to pop up with a 5-issue miniseries. And you all do all the stuff in between that.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's kind of what my point, though. He walked away from actually being the showrunner and just kind of handed it off to all the fools that he hired to work in that office. I mean, if we're going to be legitimately serious people here, there is one person other than Hickman in that office that is even a remotely competent writer. Gerry Duggan is okay on Conan. That's it. That's the only thing he's ever written that wasn't entirely forgettable. Ben Percy is a very competent writer, but look, he doesn't put a single ass in a seat. Al Ewing is the same way. He's a competent writer, but the man has never put an ass in a seat. The closer he's getting, he might get there.
Immortal Hulk was the number one selling comic.
Yeah,
in the industry for a minute.
But his
brand, his name on a cover never translated past Immortal Hulk. It hasn't translated with Sword. It didn't translate with whatever that Empire. It doesn't translate. A guy like Byrne, a guy like Claremont, a guy like Kurt Busiek, guy like Dan Jurgens. Their names translate beyond the titles that they're on. So when they leave a book, their sales come with them to a new book. That's what I mean by putting asses in seats. You create an audience for a title that doesn't currently have an audience by bringing yours over. Now you can keep the other book can keep an audience as long as they keep up the momentum that you created, but you need somebody to start that momentum. And it doesn't do it by name. Grant Morrison can do that. Even Scott Snyder to an extent can. And there was a time where Tom King could in the not too recent past. But Ben Percy, as good as he is, can't put an ass in a seat. Al Ewing can't put an ass in a seat. Tini Howard, Joe, I know you're cool with her, but if anything, she drives people away. Leah Williams is the same way. Gerry Duggan is basically just... there's a reason why I confuse him with Cullen Bunn all the time. None of these people put asses in seats. Hickman does. And he already mentally checked out.
So I do have to take this super chat. I want to say thank you very much, Lane Kramer, for supporting the channel. Very generous of you. I was wondering how creators, readers, retailers prefer their comic events, speaking of upcoming X-Men events, i.e. death metal one-shots, contained series, tennis swords crossovers in a monthly series, and how they compare sales and storytelling-wise. So we'll go from a creator perspective. Joe, what do you think is the best approach to event books?
It's very tough because my default answer is, as long as it's good, I don't really care. Like, Civil War was a fun event. It was worth it to deal with the way too many tie-ins and all of that for the books.
Yeah, Blackest Night.
Yeah, like stuff like that. And I mean, like currently with something like King in Black, I finished that before this panel, since I figured we were going to talk about it. But that was fine. That it was done in a way where I could just read the event, and then if I really wanted to read stuff tying into it, I could. I like that approach. I hate stuff where it's like, Ten of Swords, where they're trying to make you pick up other ongoings that you weren't picking up, and it just ends up being like a bloated mess that way. I don't like that with a lot of X events, and I mean, some of them are fine, but yeah, the X events they would try to do this century at least, where they kept trying to derail other books that were trying to do something, so they could go into Messiah Complex and Second Coming and all these things. I don't, even if I overall end up thinking the event is better than not, or think more positively of it, I don't like when it's constructed like that.
So Pele, you're a retailer. How do you like your events? What works best for your customers?
Well, when I look at the order sheet, let's say I find out about an event, and I look at the order sheet. First thing I look at is who's drawing it. Who are the people that are going to be drawing it on the separate books? Who's going to be writing it? The second. And then I start asking, did you hear about such and such? Yeah, I heard about such and such. What do you think about that? And I kind of ask my top customers. And then, then I get an idea. And then I got an idea of what I'm going to be ordering. And I like my events to have crossovers into the main titles, not spawning new one-shots and shit like that. A separate mini-series for that event is fine. But not spawning a whole bunch of one-shots and shit like that, and then you've got like crossovers into God knows what, the Barbie Summer Special and shit like that. That's fine. The main titles, a mini-series, prominent writer, especially a prominent artist, doing at least the first couple issues, and that to me looks like it's a recipe for a home run, and I'm going to order like a mother. But when things start falling off, and I don't know who that writer is, that artist kind of sucks, or there's things, and I start detracting points away from what my ideal is, and that order number comes down and down and down. So yeah, I mean, there's my ideal, and then there's what we usually get, and that's just the way it goes.
So, Jamie, I'll throw it over to you from the reader perspective. How do you prefer your events? Is there a one size fits all that works for you?
Yeah, and I also have the perspective of between two different comic book stores. I've worked in the shop before, but I'd say for me the events that work best were ones. I'd use Blackest Night as like the best example, where at least my memory of it was all the tie-ins were kind of contained miniseries. It's like, we're going to give you 3 issues of Blackest Night, or was it 2 issues, whatever, of like Wonder Woman. It's going to be written by Greg Rucka and Nicola Scott, and so you're going to have a significant team on it. And if I remember correctly, they actually brought back a lot of retro teams specifically for those miniseries. And so I always thought titles, just doing like a series of one-shots that didn't necessarily interfere with the ongoing titles, function best.
So I want to say thank you very much, Lane Crater, for the support for the channel and the wonderful topic. We have another super chat from Kenneth Dowling. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. I agree with everything Doc said. What? Well, Crater's putting butts in the seats. Add Geoff Johns to that list along with Donnie Cates.
Yeah.
Geoff Johns and Donnie Cates absolutely put butts in the seats, Doc.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, that's the point of if you're in comics for more than maybe, especially working for the big two for more than 4 or 5 years, and you haven't been able to establish your name as a symbol of quality that readers recognize and will pick up because your name is on it, then you don't belong at the big two anymore. It's just that simple.
Well, there's only so many Geoff Johns and Scott Snyder's, Doc. So Chip Zdarsky doesn't belong at Marvel Comics, even though he's putting out probably a majority of their best work of the last 4 or 5 years.
But he started putting butts in seats a few years ago. He started getting an audience whenever he did Spectacular Spider-Man. He after about issue 6, when he did that one issue,
weren't very good on that series. It got canceled.
But he still it lasted for a good long while.
Not with him on it.
Yeah, it did. He was on there until the end of it. After he did there was almost 30 issues of it. It changed its numbering.
I remember that. It changed its numbering after the first 4 or 6 issues, and then there was another 10 issues.
He wrote an Eisner Award-winning book.
Well,
Eisner Award-nominated book, that Spectacular Spider-Man that he wrote and drew.
I agree with you. I'd say that he's amazing. I'd say there's a spot for him at the table, even though his sales aren't great. That's my point.
Well,
not everybody needs to be able to ship the most comics in the industry. There's a reason you have the top 5% selling people.
But Chip was a couple of years into his run. He started putting together an audience during his Spectacular Spider-Man run, and then he was able to translate it into sales on Spider-Man Life Story, which sold pretty well. Yes, and Daredevil, which has it's not spectacular. I mean, the sales aren't amazing, but it's probably just outside their top 10.
I don't know. It's sitting out around about 25,000, but all right, Doc. I think you might be being a little bit too harsh. That there might be some room at the table for people that put in quality work that might not have the name recognition.
There is, but it's short-term time. Then you cycle back to the indies. They're journeymen. They bounce back and forth. I mean, look at it from a make a sports analogy. They're those guys that bounce between the minors and the pro leagues that can never quite catch on.
Yeah, and then in that vein you were talking about, the journeyman is not mean that they're bad. And I think Zdarsky is actually still in that category, but he's in the upper echelons of that category.
Okay. Well, let's get back on topic. We do have a super chat from Bradford Hogue. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Why are these changes being made at all? The book was doing fine. I don't know, Pele. You're a retailer. Why is this change happening? Why are they going downgrading from the Jonathan Hickman-led flagship title to a Gerry Duggan so we can work on a secret title? How does this work for the line?
I have no idea. It's bizarre. The sales were good still. All the other X titles, pretty much most of the other X titles were like in the crapper. But, X-Men was still selling well. Few, about 3 or 4 of the others were okay. Wolverine selling very well. So there's a following there. I just don't see how this does anything but just tank it. Because people are there because of Hickman's name. And they were still holding the faith because of Hickman's name. And now, Gerry Duggan, he's the one that wrote whatever. Oh, he writes Conan sometimes. Oh, yeah, okay. And they're not gonna have a whole lot of anticipation there for a relaunch on a title under somebody whom they don't know very well. And
so I think they're trying to bake their cake and eat it too, right? They want the sales for an X-Men flagship series, but then they want Jonathan Hickman's name on another series so they can get the sales there too. And just thinking that just the name alone will do it, even with Gerry Duggan, right?
Yeah, I think you're right, and it's not, and they want their cake and they want to eat it too. And the problem is now the cake is going to have shitty frosting on it, and I just don't see what's going on unless it's going to be an uncanny relaunch. But even then, is it too early for another uncanny relaunch? I mean, we barely have the taste of the last one out of our mouths. I mean, it was awful.
I actually probably do understand what they're doing here. They think that they've reestablished the X-Men brand name, so the X-Men, the adjectiveless X-Men title enough that it no longer matters who they put on it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this would have better success. I mean, look, Marvel's terrible when it comes to talent evaluation and recognizing that some of their creators are a lot worse than their others.
That's a fact.
They believe if we hired them, they're great. So the idea of actual tiers of quality, it doesn't exist in their mind. So they think that they can get they've reestablished the X-Men brand enough via Hickman that it doesn't matter who they put on it, and that they can get number one sales boosts, variant ratios, and blah, blah, blah for the first 4 to 6 issues the same way they were able to do on the Hickman relaunch, but with Gerry Duggan. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I think so. They think they'll be able to carry that momentum that Hickman created. Because look at back in the 90s when Claremont left. Granted, he had 17 years, but Lobdell and Nicieza and Kelly and Steve Siegel and Joe Casey, all of them were able to carry that momentum that Claremont had created, except for they didn't relaunch. I think that this would have better success of working and carrying the momentum forward if it was just issue 21 or 22 with a new creative team.
I do agree with you there, Doc, and I do want to say thank you very much to Bradford Hope for supporting the channel. We've also got Dark Bobcat. The sales of Chip's Daredevil aren't amazing or spectacular, but are they web up or unlimited? No, they're not. I mean, they're solid. It's like 25,000, and it hasn't had the extreme degradation over time. It's basically, it started out at 40, it dropped down, and it's hovered basically in the same spot, showing that it does have a consistent fan base that keeps coming back. It just hasn't grown, which is disappointing because of the quality of the book. We've also got Kenneth Dowling with the super chat. Hickman leaving X-Men does not surprise me. Somewhere along this run, he lost interest. I feel like House of X Powers of 10 was a wasted effort. I don't know, Joe. Does Hickman leaving without finishing some of these storylines, or maybe not with the thunderous applause that he came in with, does that ruin the effort that he put in House of X Powers of 10?
Maybe. I still think like there's what might end up happening is, to kind of build on Doc's point, is I think there's a good chance whatever this book is, at least initially, that Hickman's going to do, it's going to be what Doc was saying with, they're building up the brand X-Men again, so it doesn't matter who's writing it. But this is going to be like the training wheels. Like, Hickman's going to do his own thing. Maybe it's going to be Moira X or something. Maybe it's going to be a bi-monthly book. But it's going to tie so closely to X-Men. If you want to understand what Hickman's doing, you got to buy X-Men. And it'll be like the training wheels for a little bit before they just completely unplug and leave people to their own devices. But yeah, I think they lost a lot of goodwill, and each month, like, after a while, I don't care anymore about Moira. It's going to be coming on 2 years. What are you doing? Like, and it's not like years ago where, I'm waiting for this, storyline to progress, but there's only 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 other X titles tops or something like that. You literally have, from House of X to now, or House of X Powers of 10 to now, about 5 omnibuses worth of material, which Moira has not really appeared in at all. That's insane.
If they wanted to keep the Moira story going, this is why I'm pretty sure that they did just basically abandon that, and they're just using it for the reset button at the end of this.
Yeah.
That if they were actually planning on it, they would have done like they used to do. Remember back in the day, whenever you'd have like years long running subplots, they just stick a 1 page or 3 panel, like half of a page worth of like the D plot in like every 3rd issue. So you could see, reminder, this thing's still going on in the background. This thing's still going on in the background. At this point, nobody gives a shit. Everybody forgot about it.
Yeah, like, I mean, technically stuff like, that life-death sort of storyline with Storm losing her powers and gaining them back, like, technically lasted longer, but they checked in much more with the audience on that one.
Yep.
So, every several issues or so, there would be some reference to it, and you get to see Barry Windsor-Smith again. That was nice. But yeah, this is way too long for complete radio silence on that. I don't understand the end game there.
Do you think perhaps that they're not even doing what he originally envisioned for the series to begin with?
Well,
it's like he had a plot line. We saw where that plot line is going with House of X and Powers of 10, and then somebody in editorial or somebody further up, or maybe even Hickman himself, decided that would get us in trouble. That there would be pushback for that, and we're going to have to go up with a different path. And to me, that's what happened. And we're just getting we're getting the plan B or plan C right now at this point.
So,
I mean, it's impossible for him to do what he originally intended, because it's just his version of Legion 5 years later.
So I want to say thank you very much to Kenneth Dallin for supporting the channel. We've also got a super chat from Lane Kramer. New creators want to be the next Kirkman Miller. I do wonder if they realize how many years they worked in the industry, and they also got a little bit lucky. What do you think about that, Jamie? Does everyone think that that streaming deal, the Miller World deal, is just waiting there for all the hard work that you put in?
I think, from a reader's perspective, I know I've felt that way, and I think that has kind of contributed to some of the online hostility that sometimes happens between fans and creators. I know I've personally felt that it sometimes feels like the fans, like, we're all like, well, we were here before you, we're going to be here after you, and you're just waiting for your Netflix deal to come through. But I often, like, for me, it often feels like a lot of the, writers who are pretty much comic book lifers, like, I don't know how many of those are still left. Maybe a handful of people who just, their dream, like, began and ended at being a comic book creator. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't begrudge anyone selling out. Like, I've always said mockingly, if I ever wrote a book, I'd sell out in a heartbeat if someone wanted to throw a lot of money at me. Yeah, I actually don't think there's an appreciation for how long it takes for a creator to really, one, get over in the industry, but also there is no one path. Like, I know Millar spent a lot more time at Marvel than, say, Kirkman. Kirkman kind of realized that he wasn't going to be able to tell the stories that he wanted to tell within Marvel's, system. And so he backed away and just did his own thing, and it worked out really well for him. But not everyone is a Robert Kirkman.
Yeah, it takes a lot of good timing and a lot of great ideas. Obviously, Kirkman's hot again with Invincible on Amazon Prime. So thank you very much to Lane Kramer. We've also got Kenneth Dowling with the super chat. This one's for Doc. You mentioned Kelly, Lobdell, Casey, Fabian Nicienza, and X-Men before. Did Claremont mentor them? These are the only writers who could write a good X-book besides him. Well, I think you're missing the Simonsons. So.
Yeah, you're missing the Simonsons. He didn't mentor them really. I mean, Joe Kelly and Joe Casey they kind of came in a good number of years later, staying with Steven Siegel, but they were already kind of established. They had already created their like Man of Action studio. It was like a Reiner's studio. But Fabian had worked with the Simonsons. He had worked with Rob Liefeld. Rob kind of, they were like the third and fourth generation of the kind of children that grew up reading Claremont X-Men and to a degree emulated, but at the same time they had their own styles, but they knew the characters in the way that Chris had kind of fashioned them over nearly 2 decades. So they were Chris's interpretations of them were near and dear to their heart. So I wouldn't say he mentored them, but he definitely inspired them in a way that I don't think current creators are inspired. He did it, I guess, indirectly. I guess he did mentor them indirectly by them growing up reading his stuff.
Yeah, that's what Joe talks about. The further you get away from the origin of the character or maybe key seminal moments, the more you're getting a copy of a copy of a copy, because the current writer for Amazing Spider-Man, he's not so much influenced by those original Ditko or Stan Lee stories. He's maybe he's influenced by the runs from later writers. Maybe even a Dan Slott was his Spider-Man writer. So you're getting further away from or deviations from the original character.
Yeah,
or maybe even Bendis on Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah, a lot of people that was their Spider-Man. That's their preferred Spider-Man universe. So thank you very much to Kenneth Dowling for the question. We've also got Darth Bobcat, and this is a little bit depressing, but I feel where you're coming from, Darth Bobcat. The longer the story goes, the more I realize these segregationist villains are the real X-Men, character assassination on a grand scale. So Pele, I think that was one of our ongoing theories, is that the real X-Men are in a bunker somewhere, and these are just clones of clones of clones. Mm-hmm. But it does feel like these are the X-Men now. I think this is the story.
Yeah, I think the idea that I'm convinced that was Hickman's original plan, and now we're getting the shit, and I think a lot of it had to do was, well, what kind of feedback would we be getting on Twitter if we did this? Would we get hammered by saying that these people with alternative lifestyles are bad people? Instead of identifying that they're not bad people, we're talking about that they're not in character. They're not, they're different. They're not what the real X-Men were, and now we're stuck with what we have, and we've got Scott and Logan, was a loving, strange couple, with Jean thrown in on the side. And it's like, oh, please, no. But it is what it is, and if the character's created that way from the beginning, that'd be fine. But it's not it's not who Logan is. And it's, there's always a tension between Scott and Logan that makes them, such a good.
I don't really think the orgies going on in Krakoa are what makes them villains. I think it's them going out and kidnapping, Reed or Franklin Richards.
But it changes the narrative of the characers, and it changes.
Sometimes you gotta,
and it changes the overall. You see the shift then of what is a mutant. Do these deaths destroy your morality? Do they change you? They change your ethical views? And I think we were going to get a real good look into that, and now we're not. And
what were you saying, Jaden?
Well, I was going to say, just with regards to Wolverine and Cyclops, sometimes you got to find ways to work that tension out, and if nothing else has worked before, then try something new. But no. I would say when the run first started, when House of X, Powers of X, I'll admit, I was kind of interested in the idea of mutant kind really embracing the fact we're a separate species and we need to live differently. We're not Homo sapiens. And I thought, at least with regard to telling a story of if mutant kind collectively got behind that idea, that could be really interesting. But also one of the reasons why I think we haven't seen so much of Moira. And yeah, maybe it would have been helpful to see a little bit here and there. I think she's also a character that knows too much about what's going on. It's almost like if you're reading Game of Thrones and you had a Varys chapter. He knows way too much about all the secrets and whatnot. And so I think they've been holding back on Moira just because she kind of knows what's really going on. She's like people have said, she's probably the reset button.
Yeah. So thank you very much to Darth Bobcat. I think I definitely agree with you on that one. We also have Dark Admiral March here supporting the channel. Dan Slott is nobody's Spider-Man writer. He's somebody's Spider-Man writer. He was on there for 8 years? Something like that.
I genuinely really did like his Superior Spider-Man run. I thought that was very interesting.
Well, yeah, but it's like if you got Movie Blob to write a Spider-Man comic. He's writing himself that thinks, he's... I'm going to keep my mouth shut about what kind of a person I think Dan Slott is, but let's just say he thinks he's better than everyone else while he's kind of a genetic reject.
Aww. That's not a very nice thing to say, but there you go. That was Dark Admiral March Hare's opinion. So getting back to Jonathan Hickman leaving the Flagship X-Men title, relaunching a secret title, Gerry Duggan on the Flagship. Does anyone else have anything to say? We've been on the topic for a pretty good amount of time.
Yeah, we probably need to move on to the next topic.
All right, Joe's saying, screw it. We're moving on. It's time to talk about DC's round robin tournament.
Oh no, I regret this.
Oh yeah, way to go, Joe.
Next round, we've got the winners. There was some confusion over the Swamp Thing title. It looked like that pitch had won on Twitter. It turns out there was some Instagram voting that threw off the numbers, and it lost to the Suicide Squad 7 pitch. And now we have creative teams. Joe and I talked about this kind of in depth. I don't know, Doc. Is there any creative teams in there that you just think are money or you're excited about?
You're asking me a DC question, dude.
Hey, I sent you the article.
I know. No, actually, you didn't because I wasn't supposed to be on the show.
Oh yeah, never mind. I didn't send you the articles. You're not
Here, I'll
supposed to
take
be
it.
here.
I'll take it.
You're an accident.
If it's not,
That's what his parents said.
yeah. Well, if it's not Sean Gordon Murphy DC, I really don't give a shit about it.
Okay, you made your point. Pele said he's snipping it. My bad.
This is a disaster. This is just. I was like, what happened to my Swamp Thing? What the? No. We gotta go this route. Oh, screw you. I'm out. Yeah, I just threw my hands up and I'm out. Screw this shit. You know, I'm not in this. You know, and I don't see anything else that I'm really interested in. So as far as, I mean, there was a couple things that were kind of. I like the one with the pets, but you know, that was about it.
That was weird that they included the the paws off the Justice League story in this Twitter and Instagram polls. Like, how many 5-year-olds that story would be geared towards are actually on Instagram and Twitter, like voting?
Yeah,
there's some oddness in there.
I'll tell
And
you what, that was the best deceased one-shot, one-off story in the whole thing was the one with the pets. And, you know, as far as, you know, the off the main DC storyline, and, you know, it was the best one. And, you know, the pets, there's some cachet there. There's some, you know, they need to pursue that a little bit more because, you know, 50 million people watching cat videos a day can't be completely wrong. So
you might have a point there. And Dark Bobcat supports the channel and saying there was a burst pipe on Instagram off counting. Yeah, there's something weird happening. It's somehow Swamp Thing is no longer with us. So Jamie, I know you looked at the creative teams. Were you surprised or at seeing Tim Seeley's name associated with that Robbins book after seeing all the other creators?
You know, I hate to say it, but Tim Seeley was the only name that stood out to me as a name that I was familiar with. I hate to say. And so that immediately, I mean, to be fair, like I was going to vote for Robbins anyway, because, I mean, Tim Drake needs to appear in something.
Stephanie Brown.
Stephanie Brown. She's great too. And so, I mean, I voted for that one, but then also, like, the Blue Beetle one just looks like it's fun, and Starfire's in it. I'll vote for anything with Starfire. Well, not anything, to be fair. But
so you want my don't call me Starfire?
I said almost everything.
Okay. So the other one we're hearing a lot about, Joe, is the Soska sisters on the Satana story. Everyone tells me I'm nuts because I don't really know who they are. What am I missing here?
I don't know. I don't know them. That's fine. I am more than happy for people to be excited for them. I already like the Satana pitch. That's the one I voted for in the first round. That's the one I'm going to vote for in the second round. So
against Robbins,
you know, I feel like
they didn't.
Robbins
they should have seeded these things out, so they didn't have to meet in the second round.
Yeah, no, it's going to be tough. I don't know which one of those two is going to win. But you know, Seeley's like a ringer. It's like it's wrong to make someone like Seeley have to compete in something like this, and then everyone with like competing against him has got to feel burned. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, you're gonna have me go up against him?
You people have way more higher opinion of Tim Seeley than his sales have ever justified.
I'm not. I'm talking simply about the name recognition of him versus who he's up against.
The Soska sisters are at least building a name. I mean, they're really big in the horror genre.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
And they have brought some of their horror audience over because they did that Black Widow series that actually did fairly well.
Yeah.
That miniseries that was about the human trafficking.
That one caught me off guard. It sold well, and think that Marvel's kind of missed it. They kind of missed the boat on that one.
Yeah, that's fair. But most of the other teams. It's like, what are you doing? Having them go
the
up
other
against
biggest name is
Susan.
Cena Grace.
You know, it's
I see them all about at the same level, honestly.
Yeah.
Tim Seeley the man's never put a single ass in a seat. Sorry.
He's written fucking Nightwing, Doc. I know that you don't like him, but you can acknowledge that he's actually done stuff in the fucking industry.
He's done stuff, then it never translated into sales. That's my point.
He was still in the fucking Grayson book.
It'd be like competing against fucking X-Pac, man.
And if you were some Joe Blow Schmuckatelli on the indie wrestling circuit and you're wrestling X-Pac, it would probably feel like a big deal.
Yeah, when you're on the indie circuit.
Yeah, this is what this thing is. Have you not looked at it?
It's
God.
it's still a comic being
You
published
don't
by the
have
big
to shit
two.
on everything, man.
This is kind of like the shit show of DC. So it's kind
Well,
of
it
like
is the shit show, but his name, when you look at it, it seems odd because he's had a lot more accomplishment than the rest of the creators. And I do want to say thank you very much to a wonderful creator. If he was on the list, I would absolutely be voting for his comic book. But he's working on his creator-owned work. Eric Canetti, $5. This is a great show. Sorry that it broke down there for a minute, my friend. Thank you, Wes. Thank you, panel.
Eric is awesome, by the way. I've been following his Instagram and his Twitter. Everybody needs to go follow Eric because he puts some of his work up, and it is a joy to see it every single day. And I really like following him. So go follow
his
him.
own YouTube channel if you want to see how the art is made.
Absolutely. He's
Like
very talented young man. Everybody needs to go follow him.
I think it is omelet time. So thank you very much to Eric. Also, thank you to Lane Kramer. Where is City of Bruce left hooking with these stories? I think City of Bruce is going to be its own big deal. But I do think that Joe Corallo, the man so far behind the City of Bruce with Perch, is getting an omelet. So maybe he can talk about it when he returns. Sorry about that, Lane. So. All right. Does anyone else have anything to say about the DC Round Robin tournament? I'm excited. I do like V. Ken Marion. He's done some work on Green Lantern that's really good, and I've supported Vasco Gorgiev's creator-owned works in the past, so I was excited to see him on the Superman book.
What do you think with the? What do you think it's going to go with the Suicide Squad, Superman and Lois bracket?
Suicide Squad, right?
Yeah. I don't know because you got Superman and Lois Lane. The show is really knocking it out. So I don't know.
I think that they're going to just end up making that kind of more of a plot inside one of the upcoming Superman books, like kind of maybe try to tie it a little closer to the show, or use the show to sell, raise the profile on. Could be action, it could be Superman. That maybe they launch another Superman title, but I think it's Suicide Squad. Is there a Suicide Squad book going on right now?
Yes.
Oh, there is? Okay.
Got the John Cena's Peacemaker on.
Okay.
So that's one of the big ones. We do have a super chat for Bradford Hogan. This is a good question. Where do we vote on the books for DC? Now that's interesting. I believe there's 3 places. You can go to DC's official Twitter account at DC Comics. I believe it's the pinned tweet. You go in there and you can vote on the poll for the second round. You can go to their official Instagram. I am not on Instagram, but that's where I'm told the other half of the vote is going. And I also, for some reason, I think there's a way that you can vote through it on their DC Infinite app, which is their digital service. So there's multiple ways to vote. And if you have an Instagram and a Twitter, you can vote multiple times. So thank you very much for supporting the channel, Bradford Hogue. Darth Bobcat. Does City of Bruce explain mutants like Killer Croc? That's a joke question. He's the man behind City of Bruce.
I'm back.
Oh, he is back.
Get your omelet?
Yes. No, it's good. This is some behind the scenes stuff here. I had an omelet brought to me, and I'm going to have that and avoid showing you all how disgusting it is while I'm eating.
That's okay.
Does City of Bruce explain mutants like Killer Croc?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. We'll figure it out. It's I mean, geez, I'm trying to think. If
Did Bruce visit the zoo and when he was a little bit intoxicated?
Well, I mean, come on. You know, like we've talked about this before. I've talked about this in a few other places. There's a large furry market out there, and you know,
Are we considering Killer Croc a furry? Is there a scaly market?
There is absolutely a scaly market. Let's this is going down a dark path. We don't need to. We can just see it down the road and keep moving.
Okay, I'm gonna just stop talking now.
When City of Bruce comes out, it'll all be explained. Joe guarantees.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much to Darth Bobcat. I think we've done the DC round robin stuff. Now let's get back to some cool comic news. So Pele, you have been singing the praises of Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman's King in Black series. Obviously, the event is kind of the sequel to Absolute Carnage. It's the culmination of all the stuff that Donny Cates has been doing on Venom for quite some time. And like Doc said, Donny Cates put butts in the seats. He's elevated the sales of Venom up to one of the highest-selling Marvel ongoing series. We finally got the conclusion in Venom 34. Then we got King of Black. I believe it's number 5. Did they land? Did they stick the landing, Doc? Or I'm sorry, Pele.
Yes, they did, and I will say that I think the final confrontation was a little bit weak. I wanted to see, a little bit more of a struggle. It was almost more like I've come in.
As soon as he was reborn with the Captain Universe power, it was over.
He smacked him around like a little bitch, and it was, it wasn't even close. There was no profound struggle between them. It was just, your ass is mine now, and he just, and King in Black ran away like a little tiny girl. But it was amazing, though, just the way that it, and I think it was interesting too because it was brought out in a way that just, we didn't see it coming, didn't know that Captain Universe was the Enigma force was that powerful of a force, but or that what it represented as far as other than just some strange anomalous power that comes to people in their time of need. But I guess it fits, and that. The hammer, Thor's hammer, and Silver Surfer surfboard moment probably will be a classic Marvel moment going on into the future. So,
although Mjolnir has been so downplayed as far as the power and everyone can wield it now, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you've got a hammer and you've got a hammer and yeah, it's just who's not worthy. You used to say whoever is worthy you may have them. And now it's more like if you really want the power of Thor, you could have it.
Hell, if you only just sort of, kind of, maybe want to borrow it for a little bit.
Yeah,
it's the town bike.
Yeah, it's everybody gets a turn, but and I mean it's the first time that Thor's had it ever ripped out of his hands. I mean, okay, that's no, I don't agree with that, but it's interesting. And
Captain Marvel could absolutely rip Mjolnir out of his hands, right?
Who?
Captain Marvel. She's murdered him and
do
taken
everything.
his hand before.
No, she could. She wouldn't be able to hold it though. It would just sort of fall.
She stood a penance stare. She was like, "Why are you looking at me like that?"
I'm just saying she could rip it out of his hand, but he wouldn't be able to hold it. Then it would just drop because she's not worthy to pick it up. But
Until the writer decides she is, because she needs another power upgrade.
Well,
Yeah, but
personally, I agree. I definitely think Captain Marvel, Billy Batson could pick up the hammer.
There you go. That one, yes, I do believe. Yes, I do believe he could. But Superman can. There's certain DC characters that can. Carol Danvers, no, she's a murdering space Nazi, and so it's just she's not worthy of anything, but I would say that yes, in this instance, that Venom was worthy, and he had come to some realizations within himself. You know, he had reached an incredible, vast amount of power, and he was, you know, very worthy. Whether he was worthy enough to rip the hammer out of Thor's hand, you know, that's another thing. But, you know, it's to get to your point though, fantastic finish. Great, you know, the king is dead, long live the king kind of narrative, you know, and where that's going into the future and how he's kind of saved his son Dylan from a future of bleak darkness. You know, that was really good. So,
all right, Doc, you've been the naysayer of the panel so far. Were you impressed with King in Black?
I enjoyed the ending. I enjoyed the whole series. The only problem I had was the same thing that Pele mentioned, the final confrontation. You know what it reminded me of? I mean, I'm tired of using goddamn wrestling references on this show already because I'm not that big of a wrestling fan. But it was 1980s Hulk Hogan getting that power up thing where he at the end of, you know, he got his ass kicked for the entire match. And now he's you know, they're giving him the double axe handle and beating on him, and he's just kind of shaking and getting stronger and stronger, brother. And then he just wipes the floor with the guy. It's like they you know, they literally just copied the ending from a 1980s Hulk Hogan WrestleMania match.
Yeah.
Yeah, he basically picked up Andre the Giant here.
Yes,
he did. That's a good analogy.
Yeah, and that's all it was. I mean, it was cheesy. I really would have liked to see, because the whole point of the Captain Universe kind of powers is that they are they are the opposite of, you know, the King in Black. They are equals and opposites. So watching an equal beat the ever-loving crap out of its opposite doesn't make any sense to me.
That's true. That's what one of my other customers are saying. You're supposed to have the power equal to match the threat that you were engaged in. That's the way that the power has always been explained before. And in this, it was more like, I am so much more powerful than you. I am going to just spank your ass. And no.
Like, I mean, I understand. And the whole point was that you know, having the Venom symbiote and the hammer and the surfboard barely put him over top, instead of, it just made him an overpowered. It got way too much, you know, we talk about power creep. This was like power jump. And he basically turned into flashy Super Mario Brother. You know, where he could just run through and beat everything.
It made me think of the was it the 85 animated Transformers movie when he becomes Rodimus Prime?
Yeah.
It was that, where it's just like, oh, now I have all the power. Now I'm going to shoot Galvatron into space and blow up Unicron. Okay.
Well, that's the way Cates explained it was, well, he got the surfboard, which was half of Silver Surfer's power, and he got Mjolnir, and then it means he was like 150% more powerful than, and then he could just spank his ass. And I'm like, I don't know if that's really correct.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's maybe about 105%. You know, it would be a hell of a fight. It should have been a fight that went from from front page to back page, and at the very end, you know, Venom stands supreme. And that to me would have made a lot more sense. And also he killed him the same way that Sentry killed Carnage. I mean,
just throwing him into the sun.
It's like, oh, okay.
I like to laugh about it and tell things we should throw them into the sun.
It's a meme.
That's just because it's a meme.
Yeah.
You know, he killed him with a meme. But no, I mean, and the other thing I will say on this is, I felt like, even though there was a month gap between issue 4 and 5, I still felt it still looked like Ryan Stegman's art was a little rushed.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, it
was a little choppy.
It didn't seem like it didn't seem up to his, you know, normal standards. But I mean, it could have just been what he was going for on that issue. I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of get the impression that he was trying to get a little bit more sloppy with this one on purpose, but make it look more like the frenetic type of craziness going on at that moment. So,
yeah, but I mean,
it's nice to have an event that kind of delivered, though.
Yeah, it did.
It did. It was a 90% delivery, and in this day and age, I'll take it. By God, that is like really, really good. And overall, the whole series in itself was a great read, and I heartily recommend it. And it's going to sell well in trade. So.
Absolutely. So we do have Jimmy from Comic Works supporting the channel. Sorry on a no-show. I'm pretty sick, and he's going back to bed. Yes, Jimmy was supposed to join us. He fell out at about, it was 3 in the afternoon here, so it's 3 a.m. Eastern time. So I'm glad that you tried to make it, Jimmy, but we're holding up without you, and we're hoping that you feel better, brother.
Yes, feel better.
Yes, feel better, dude. There was also a super chat from Kenneth Dowling.
Again,
yes.
And he's awesome.
Absolutely. So King of Black, number 5, I liked it, though I think this is set up for Venom 200. I also read Thanos Wins OMG. That was a crazy book. Donny Cates is a beast. It's absolutely, we're going to get the finale, I guess, or the final chapter in Venom 200. And I'm glad that you read Thanos Wins, because that was like Donny Cates announcing his presence at Marvel with authority. And that is a great book.
Yeah, that was like, wow. Go ahead, Ed. Go ahead, Joe.
I was just going to say, Donny has enough confidence and self-esteem. Let's not overblow it here. He's got enough. He's doing fine. Got to humble the boy.
He's got his time coming. I've got a feeling he's going to lay an egg. He's going to lay an egg in a stinker that's just going to challenge him down to his core. But that's what's really, is he going to survive that? Is he going to come out ahead? Everybody's great whenever the sun, every dog is happy when the sun is shining on his ass, but how are they going to do when it's blasting their face? So we'll see.
Yep, he's definitely he's the main guy at Marvel right now. He's certainly the big money maker as far as what he seems to elevate almost every title up to a bestseller. Do we have anything else to say about the King of Black?
The early issues are getting to be kind of difficult to find, and they're raising in price. So if you want the original floppies, there's no better time than the present to go get them before they start reaching key status.
Yeah. And some false advertising there. Johnny Cash doesn't show up at all.
Not cool, Donnie.
Right?
You didn't need a false advertising. So let's move on. We do have a super chat that kind of leads into our next topic. This is from Bradford Hogue. Can you explain DC main malfunction from movies to comics? Why are they wasting the talents of Geoff Johns? So Geoff Johns, when he left the chief creative officer position at DC Comics, he still had a writing gig, but he was also he was the co-chief of DC Films. He was a creative guy there. And this is where I think DC's movies fell off the track. So the Batman movies have gotten progressively more dark. And then we had Batman Begins kind of happening when the MCU was blowing up. We had the Nolan trilogy, which was hugely successful. So they wanted to build the DCEU in the image of what Nolan was doing, but he did not want to continue doing it. So he signed on to be the executive producer. I believe he had some part in the script for Man of Steel, but they needed somebody to be their Kevin Feige. They decided that Zack Snyder was the guy for it, but they went in a very dark direction, basically off the tone of the Christopher Nolan trilogy, and they were building up this much darker DC universe, much less humorous, not much lightheartedness in there, not a lot of hope, but also they decided to fast track themselves into Justice League rather than kind of setting up the origin stories of the key players. We got the Batman origin kind of in Batman versus Superman. We got hints of Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Cyborg. The only character that we really got an origin for before Justice League was, I believe, Wonder Woman, besides Man of Steel. And I think that's kind of where they fell off the tracks. And now it feels like none of them are really connected. They're just putting things out there to see what hits. So when you have a Joker do $1 billion, and it's maybe the most successful DC film, certainly since Dark Knight Return, or it's Returns, or I'm sorry, the Dark Knight film. There's nowhere to go with it because it wasn't connected to begin with because it was never supposed to. Then you have Shazam, which has a wildly different tone, doesn't feel like it's in the same universe. So I think that's mostly where their issues have come from. Does anyone else have any thoughts on that?
That was such a lost opportunity. It really was. The after Bruce Wayne checked out at the end of the Nolan series, they could have started this new one off with Dick Grayson. The officer that found the cave, and they could have started that off with him being and they could have had Affleck play him later in life, and that could have really tied in and brought that whole part into the ongoing right now. And they just wanted Bruce Wayne. That's fine, but I think that if they'd have gone with Dick Grayson instead, I think it would have been better. It would have just been so much better.
Mm-hmm.
I think that ever since they got a lot of pushback on Man of Steel, they've basically just kind of been throwing stuff at a wall. Like they thought Man of Steel was going to be Iron Man, like that first Iron Man movie, where everybody was just going to be kind of universally liked. And not super, I mean, it was important, but it needed to be that great setup for everything. But the problem was a lot of people just didn't like that movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a great Hyperion movie. It was just not a very good Superman movie. And so you had a lot of split on the kind of fan base, the Superman fan base. They're like, but this isn't really Superman. I don't know if I'm really on board for a universe built on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, people kept saying that he didn't have a way to not, kill Zod or whatever. He would have found a way. Because Superman finds a way. That's the key to the character. But, what do I know? I've only been reading comics for 47 years.
Which is 46 years and 1 month and 11 months longer than most Warner Brothers executives.
There you go.
So it's not very cohesive, and you just never know what they're going to do. Plus, they've announced so many things that they've never done. I would say over half of the projects that were DCE related never happened. And I think that's another problem. Like, when's the last time they announced like an MCU project that didn't happen? If Kevin Feige says they're doing it, they do.
Inhumans.
It was a TV show.
No, but they announced it as a movie.
Yeah.
But it ended up being a TV show.
I know, but my point is that was the last time.
And it was a good decision.
Well, absolutely.
Feige has been unbelievably successful to the point where now when movies don't happen, it's outrage and not the norm that it used to be.
Right.
I feel like we had this conversation last week.
We probably did.
So thank you very much to Bradford Hope for that. We also have a super chat from Lane Kramer. I had mad respect for Kate's. Last April, he bought all the comics for subs to support my comic shop, Dragon's Lair in Austin, and I will always support him. And that was a very generous act. Certainly, that was right in the beginning of the pandemic shutdown. And I imagine Dragon's Lair was very appreciative of that, and I definitely respect that. So thank you for bringing that up, Lane Kramer, and I really appreciate supporting the channel. Now let's get into this Ray Fisher, Geoff Johns situation. We've been hearing about Ray Fisher's grievances against specifically Joss Whedon, Geoff Johns, and then another producer named John Byrne, but we've never actually gotten any specifics. We got the Hollywood Reporter interview where he basically kind of lays it all out there. When you're done with it, I came away thinking that Joss Whedon was kind of an asshole. But I just don't know, Joe, am I being crazy when I see the allegations of what he's saying Geoff Johns did? Like, it just feels like a lot of miscommunication.
I mean, it feels like that, but it was clearly a hostile work environment. I'm not saying who's at fault either way, but those things happen. Like, I think a lot of us have experienced working with someone we are not happy to be working with. And it almost doesn't matter who's at fault. At the end of the day, the work environment sucks, and sometimes it's resolved well, sometimes it's not.
You've been talking to my employees. Never
But you know, it's just like, yeah, I get it. I get that idea that Ray Fisher is really mad. Ray Fisher probably also knows that his this was his big break if he was going to have one, and it's not turning out that way. I mean, he probably assumed that from the 2017 movie flopping, you know. So yeah, I get it. I get that being angry. I get wanting, you know, people pointing fingers and stuff like that. That always happens in these situations. Whenever a movie bombs, it doesn't always get press, but people are always pointing fingers, and this person did this and this person did that. We're just seeing a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. Again, I don't know if it warranted escalating to this point in terms of having these investigations and all of that. I don't know if this is really going to have an impact on Geoff Johns long term. It seems that it's going to have an impact on Whedon probably long term, but Whedon was more of a face out there in TV and film, and Geoff isn't. So that's I mean, the days of Joss being someone that people are actively trying to work with are probably over.
They should be. They really need to get him out of the business. He is a piece of crap. Anyway.
I do need to say thank you very much to Dark Admiral March Hair. $20 super chat. It's fairly generous. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. I have family visiting. I took my niece to the LCS for the first time. I gave her a 20 burger and pointed out the dollar bin. She picked up a bunch of Archie and Richie Rich comics. I picked up Silver Coin and some used Ghost Rider trade paperbacks. Now that sounds like it was a successful trip to the local comic shop. Jamie, did his niece do a good job? Is that where you should be hitting in the dollar bin?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely, the local shops that I have all have sizable dollar bins. They weren't always the best organized, so sometimes you got to be careful about what winds up in there. Yeah, I think dollar bins, and also, like he said, he picked up some used Ghost Rider TPs. Is that common do shops buy? I know shops traditionally buy like old comics, but are they also doing that for graphic novels as well? Because that seems like a good idea.
I know some that do, yeah.
Yeah, we buy a lot of bulk. We buy a lot of bulk TPB. You know, it's basically people that are just tired and they want to get, you know, what they can out of them, and they're tired of reading them over and over again. Yeah. So, yeah, we'll give people like 10 cents on the dollar for their trades, and, you know, then we'll sell them for, you know, a few bucks. So, you know.
Joe, you got some really good gets because your comic shop has a policy. They won't sell anything above cover price, right?
Yeah, Midtown Comics won't sell above cover price. So sometimes people bring in out-of-print trades, and they have to, company policy, sell them at cover price. So that's how I got the Question Volume 1 at cover price when that thing goes for a stupid amount of money online. But I will say to Admiral Marchair, I don't know if your niece did the best she could have there. She could have gotten 2 like 80th anniversary annuals from DC instead of a ton of comics.
Yeah.
Well, some of those might be in the dollar bin by now, right?
They are getting there. They're close.
Yeah. So I want to say congratulations to Dark Admiral March Hair. I salute you for getting somebody young into the hobby. I'm working on that myself with my two sons. It's always fun discovering comics with them. So I hope you had a good time as well. And next up, we have a super chat from Kenneth Dowling. I watched your video on this issue, Wes, and this is the Ray Fisher, Geoff Johns situation. I think it's a miscommunication. Also, Ray worked with Snyder and Terrio in creating Cyborg's art, and then had it taken away by Whedon. I'd be pissed off too. I think that has a lot to do with it, Jamie, where he was a part of the creative process at the beginning. But once Zack Snyder unfortunately had to leave the project, Joss Whedon came in, and it was a different experience for him. And it did not, I think that's really what set it all off.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely heard over the years that Whedon is difficult to work with. He actually came into my shop once, and it was embarrassing because I didn't recognize him, and asked him for his ID when he was checking out. That did not go over well. But
really?
Tell him F off. Give me your ID.
He was slightly offended that I didn't recognize him, but
Jesus.
But yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with everything that Ray Fisher was specifically complaining about. Like, for me, as a fan of Cyborg, multiple different versions of him, I kind of wanted the Booyah line in the movie. Like, I'm not gonna lie, but also, like, I wanted Wonder Woman to say "Suffering Sappho." Like you kind of want that classic comic book stuff to make its way into the films, or like Batman's like, "I am the Knight," or whatever he likes to say.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, the fact that he was so involved, like, I watched the Snyder Cut, and after seeing that, I really appreciated Ray Fisher's frustration more.
Yeah.
Because he, for better or for worse, he was the audience perspective of the whole movie. Like, he was, I mean, he was the guy that stayed in his room, like, isolated from everything that was going on, and eventually, like, had to be the guy that stood up and was like, I'm going to be a hero. And so he was really the audience surrogate. And his backstory had a lot more details to it. And so, and also, I don't know, like, I will admit, I was like a comic book fan, and, I've been fortunate enough to also have some interactions with Geoff Johns. Granted, they were in a context of a signing, so maybe he just had his game face on. But all of my interactions with Geoff Johns have been overwhelmingly positive. And so, like, immediately I'm like, I don't want to believe that Geoff Johns is, like, that he was as, like, I kind of am hoping that it's a miscommunication too, but at the same time, if Whedon was creating a hostile work environment, which it sounds like he probably was.
Sure.
If I were in Ray Fisher's perspective, I would be equally frustrated that the people higher up weren't doing something to alleviate that situation. Now, granted, from their perspective, they're going like, this is a movie that has been costing us millions and millions and millions of dollars, and we just need this thing to get done and come out. So I think everyone's dealing with a lot of pressure in this situation, and it doesn't sound like no one acted perfectly in this situation.
What really set me back on this was when it came out. Everybody was, oh, well, they're just ists and phobes, and that's when I was like, okay, this has gone too far. You've gone from being, Fisher's gone from being justifiably upset that his role has been diminished in the movie to people being called ists and phobes. And to me, that's when you've crossed the line, and I lose a lot of my sympathy for you. So, it wasn't because of who or what Ray Fisher is. It just happened to be, this is the best way that we see to trim the movie down and to get it out in the theaters. So that to me was what okay, fine. I'm checking out of this. This is crap. They're using that card again, and I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right.
I think it's.
So we got another super chat from Kenneth Dowling. I like Pele's take on continuing from the end of The Dark Knight Rises. Only Nolan was done after that. He only did the Batman movies to make his own projects, and he wanted to thank Doc for correcting him on X-Men writers.
Anytime.
Thanks, Kenneth.
Yes, absolutely. Christopher Nolan was done with Batman. I don't see him doing any of these type of franchises. He's one of the few creators in Hollywood that can actually write an original screenplay and get it produced with a pretty decent budget. So I think that's where he wants to work at these days.
I think a lot of the problems with the whole Ray Fisher, Geoff Johns thing, Geoff Johns is a comic creator that actually seems to be a fairly well-adjusted human being, unlike a lot of comic creators. And you're dealing with temperamental, overly emotional Hollywood types. Look, you're always gonna get into a fight, but Geoff Johns isn't protected. Joss Whedon.
That's what you murdered that guy here is saying. He's saying John's error was enabling Whedon's cuntiness. Johns wasn't being a dick, but his job was as a mediator, and he failed to properly advocate for the talent who was being bullied.
Yeah, I mean, he's not wrong there. I mean, look, Whedon. I have my thoughts on him, and I just say he turns out exactly as you expect his type to turn out. But he already had enough black marks on him in the industry that Warner wasn't really interested in protecting him anymore, mostly because he didn't pay off the way they thought he would. If this would have come out, say, mid Avengers 1, like after Avengers 1, with the success of Avengers 1, it never would have gotten any media coverage.
Well, it's also one of the reasons that he got the Justice League gig was because of Avengers. They thought he was going to save it. And I imagine Geoff Johns was put in a weird situation. Is he going to go up to the management at Warner Brothers and be like, hey, the ringer that you've just brought in to save this movie that we need to make $1 billion?
And Johns, he has no clout in the Hollywood sphere of this. Even within the Warner Brothers thing, he's a big fish in a little pond at DC Comics, and this was his opportunity to maybe move up into being a bigger fish in a bigger pond at Warner Media, but he doesn't have the clout yet. I mean, if this would have been 6 movies down the line and they were all, and he had established himself as DC's Kevin Feige, then he'd be completely protected. But he's not. He's left wide open. This is just a series of unfortunate events and a bunch of people that are just pissing and moaning, and it became public because it's fashionable right now.
Yep.
And we do have a super chat from Bradford Hope. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. It's hard to believe that the guy that created Simon Baz, the second Mr. Terrific, and on is an overt racist. Well, he certainly uses that in the article, or as his publicist does as a defense. Like, look at the things that Geoff Johns has done as far as the comic books. It certainly backs up his story, but I don't think there's anything definitive about that. So, Joe, I do want to ask you about the there's an interaction that Ray Fisher talks about between him and Geoff Johns, and they're talking about, we want you to be less Frankenstein and more Quasimodo. I guess he dipped his shoulder to portray like the posture of Quasimodo in his movie. That one seems to have been taken way out of context. Although I will say this on Ray Fisher's behalf, I think Geoff Johns probably shouldn't be like, that wasn't very good advice.
No, I mean, here's the problem. Any ideas of that being problematic aside, that's also just not Cyborg. It's like, are you implying that he should be like kind of hunched over a little bit and like hobbling around? Like, that's just a weird thing to suggest,
Almost like where they were pitching him as, as the cyborg Frankenstein, or, was he, I think that's what they were looking for, but that's not really who the character is.
Yeah, it was overall just bad advice. I get it. I'd probably be annoyed if I was given that kind of direction, because it just doesn't sound like it makes much sense and isn't very helpful. I don't think it really goes beyond that. I would understand the offense if someone was, if Ray Fisher was disabled and Geoff Johns was like, you really gotta hobble around or something, like I would get the offense there, but like, I don't know what the
Play it up, buddy. Yeah, use that peg
it
leg.
feels
There
like
you
at
go.
that point everything had built up, and unless you told him what he wanted to hear, he was going to be mad.
No,
and I
get
understand
it.
that. Yeah,
I get it. I think we have all been in a situation where, you're just so upset with someone and then they do something that's like not the worst thing they've done, but you are just like, oh, that is it. I am at my wit's end. So like, I get it.
There's a very easy comparison and parallel here between the Ray Fisher, Warner Brothers, Jeff Johns situation and the John Boyega, Star Wars, Disney, Ryan Johnson and Kathleen Kennedy situation, except for Disney is much more protected by the Hollywood and insider media than AT&T and Warner Brothers and Jeff Johns are, because they're known insiders. And so Boyega was able to get a little bit of his frustrations aired, but nowhere near as much as Ray Fisher has.
Oh no, absolutely. It's just the corporate culture. I mean, and it trickles all the way down to the comics too, because it's the same thing where like DC sounds like it's in disarray, but like a lot of those same things are happening at Marvel, but they are much better at keeping their mouths shut.
So we do have a super chat from you, Iron, and thank you very much to Brad for supporting the channel. Yesterday, Joe said that they made JLF, Justice League Fury. It would be a sleeper hit and a new, fresh avenue for DC to expand into. Care to talk about Justice League Furry?
Truth.
I don't think that's exactly what I said. But
are you saying you Iron's a liar?
But no. But yeah, Justice League Furry would absolutely sell gangbusters, because there are that's the kind of thing. I don't know what it is, but these furries, they have money. And they, like, if you start throwing out these like crazy variants, like that's where the variant game works.
Then why don't they buy Beast back issues?
Joe,
they don't.
Can we get a variant cover with actual fur on it? Is that the next evolution of variant covers?
Well, then you're going to turn off the scalies. You gotta.
You gotta think. You gotta know your audience.
Yeah. You gotta be.
I'm not cleaning that up.
What they got to do is put fur in the ink for the furry ones, and then you just make lenticular variants for the scalies, because they're kind of scaly.
Yeah, but then what's going to happen is it's going to like. The team's going to have too many like wolves on it, and then people are going to be like, that's so mainstream. Everyone's a wolf. Like, you got to throw in like a kangaroo or something. Like,
where's my alpaca representation?
Absolutely. You don't want to have too many wolves on your team, and like, because it deteriorates into wolves and foxes really quickly if you're not careful.
It does.
It does.
It really does.
So be looking out for Justice League Furry from Joe Corallo in your hopefully in the future.
Right next to JLQ.
If I wrote something like that, it would be the highest selling book I ever did. I'll tell you that.
Thank you very much, you Iron. We also got Kenneth Dowling chiming in. Jeff Johns basically should have stayed in his lane. He's not a director and should not have been giving actors acting notes. Well, I think producers somewhat do that, but I will say his notes in that case were absolutely awful. Like that was, I read it. I wasn't offended, but I was like, yeah, I would have told him to stuff it too. That was not a good way to go.
You know what? The thing is, though, I disagree. While he is not a director in the Hollywood capacity, he is, as a comics writer. And depending on how you do your scripts, a lot of they almost become director screenwriters, because they'll even give notes on camera angles and scenes and rotation of everything. So, and body position. What is it? So they're used to that kind of stuff. I mean, and I've never seen a Jeff Johns script, but I've seen an Alan Moore script, and I mean, he's absolutely a goddamn director.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Doc, if you would like to see a Jeff Johns script, we did an episode of her comic book writing scripting where we looked at and talked about a Geoff Johns script directly. So if you want to see that, it's on the channel.
Oh, okay. I'll have to check that out.
There you go. And but I stand by that was bad advice, and I still didn't want to see Booyah. I'm sorry, Jamie.
It's all right. I understand.
And thank you to Kenneth Dowling for supporting the channel. Did anyone else have anything to say about the Ray Fisher, Geoff Johns allegations now that we finally have some details?
Not really.
That sounds like a no to me. We're moving on. Speaking of Geoff Johns, he has a new imprint called Mad Ghost Imprint at Image Comics. And we have word this week that we're getting a series from Peter J. Tomasi, longtime associated with DC Comics. Obviously, he was working with Brad Walker, the artist, on Detective Comics when they were removed and Mariko Tamaki and Dan Mora took over. And they are moving over, and they believe it's called, what is it, Sniper and Slug?
Snipe and Slug, yeah.
Snipe and Slug, and it's under this Geoff Johns imprint, which was supposed to be at DC Comics, but now he has moved it over to Image. This feels like an enormous get for Image Comics. We get this Geoff Johns imprint, now bringing over Peter J. Tomasi, Brad Walker, some creators that are more associated with DC, but they're very high-quality talents.
So I'm personally super excited. I didn't realize this until you sent me the link this morning. I feel like I slept on this, but I'm super excited. I'd pick up anything Peter Tomasi does. In fact, I've got a graphic novel by his on when we get to recommendations. But I'm super excited, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see the talents that Geoff Johns brings over to his imprint. It's going to be because
I'm pretty sure Jason Fabok's going to be a part of it. Obviously, we've already got Gary Frank on Geiger. So it looks like he's bringing the big guns that he was working with at DC.
Yeah, so that's exciting because I've said before, but Peter Tomasi is on my Mount Rushmore of favorite comic book writers.
So what do you think, Joe? Does this represent? It doesn't feel like it's a big change in the industry, but it feels like things are starting to move over to creator-owned works even more.
Yeah, I mean, Pete Tomasi isn't completely unfamiliar to creator-owned works. He's done some stuff at Dark Horse before, so it makes sense that he's, in terms of people like Geoff Johns, I'm sure he has a long relationship with Geoff. I mean, Pete's been at DC for 20-something years, so I'm sure they have a good relationship. This is the kind of thing that makes perfect sense. I didn't get to do my, Geoff being didn't get to do this book I wanted to do at DC. I'm going to bring it over to Image. Hey, Pete, Brad, I saw, you guys got the rug pulled out from under you. Why don't you come with me? I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some more of that. Wasn't Jock working on a book that he said he couldn't say?
That's what Scott Snyder on his Best Jacket Press.
Okay. So
him and Francis Manupal, I believe, both are working on two different projects.
Yeah, but that's I think we're seeing that migration to Image from a lot of these creators that thought they had things going on at DC. So continue seeing that. Although Mark Doyle might try to convince Scott to do more stuff over at IDW, we'll see. But yeah, this is an interesting move. I'm glad to see Pete at Image. I'd love to see how that book does, and to see Pete Tomasi carve out a path at Image and some of these other places. Because honestly, I don't see how he couldn't sell just as well as a lot of the other creators that are trying to bring their clout over. Your Steve Orlando's and even Donny Cates on Image books. We'll see how it all shakes out.
And it feels like he was criminally underappreciated there at the end. His Superman, Super Sons books were very high quality. Certainly, they weren't selling as good as maybe DC had wanted, but they were consistent. They wouldn't have massive fall offs, and then he moves over to Detective Comics, and he gets removed from that book as well. So yeah, I'm glad that he's getting this opportunity.
I really liked his Batman and Robin during the New 52 and a little before that. I thought he did a good job with that book. I really liked how he handled Damian Wayne all the way back then. You know, he really like humanized the character in a way that just it wasn't handled before. And even his editing. I mean, Starman from James Robinson is still one of my favorite books, and he edited like half of that series. Pete's great and is deeply underappreciated in this business for all his contributions.
Yep, and I want to give a shout out to Comics by Perch. He's at a gymnastics meet, I do believe, but he's in the chats. If you want to say something snarky to him or call him a jerk off, do that in the comments section. He's going to read it because it sounds like he's here. So welcome to the live stream, Perch. So apparently I'm sorry, Joe.
No, I was going to say, I know, like we know it's his daughter's gymnastics meet, but the way he typed it, it was like, is Perch performing gymnastics?
Absolutely.
I'd pay to see that.
Gymnastics. He's got the ball right now, and he's got the...
he does the rings later.
The little streamer thing, you know,
yes,
the
he's got
circles.
Now I'm getting an old school mental image of Perch like Vince Vaughn smoking a cigarette doing the rings.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Still got it.
Oh, God.
And welcome to Critical Blast, another YouTuber, really good guy. Hopefully we'll get him on a Comics Aficionado soon. He's also in the chat, so say hi to Critical Blast if you get a chance. So apparently we did learn about this new Mad Ghost imprint basically in the last page of the first issue of Geiger. Did Geiger sell well, and were people excited about this Peter J. Tomasi, Brad Walker series?
I've heard other shops it did pretty well. We're kind of odd in that respect, you know, that a lot of indies really don't seem to carry over here. But, you know, we sold 10 copies and they're gone. Yeah.
Hey.
There you go.
You know,
That's
it's
normally what happens when you sell 10 copies.
yeah, but yeah. But anyway, it's one of those situations where it's just really not our field. But I the feeling I get from shops where it is a you know, where indies are pretty much their staples. You know, that it's, you know, this is going to go well. So.
Yeah, I thought it was exciting. We do have Tevius Smolka, another YouTuber. If you haven't subscribed to Tevius' channel, what are you waiting for? That man puts out like 3 or 4 videos a day. He puts out a lot of content. It's very high quality. Question: with Peter J. Tomasi and Brad Walker joining Mad Ghost imprint, what does this mean for DC Comics? Well, I think it means everything that we already knew, that DC Comics are investing in younger, cheaper talent. They are still going to be working with your Geoff Johns and certainly with Peter J. Tomasi. He's writing that Super Sun series right now, but they aren't going to be doing multiple titles lately. They're going to be doing a little bit less work. They're going to let some new up-and-coming talent that are cheaper work on a lot of these bigger characters. And Peter J. Tomasi and Scott Snyder and you know, a lot of these big-name artists, along with Geoff Johns, are going to have opportunities to sell their wares outside of DC Comics and see if maybe their name value is higher than DC anticipated. At least that's the way I'm taking it. Is that how you take it, Joe?
Yeah, no, I think that's it. I mean, who knows? Maybe DC could have been like, hey, you know what, Pete, Brad, before you go, why don't you pitch this to the round robin?
Maybe we can get you a spot on a 6-part mini.
Yeah, like, hey, Pete, you know, we want you to stick around, but we're going to let Twitter decide if you get paid or not. You know, and they were probably like, you know, I'll take my chances at getting back end from Image over a Twitter poll. Thanks. You know, I'm sure Pete and Brad are at a point where Image, you know, gives them an advance, but you know.
Yeah, I also think I remember Scott Snyder. I mean, this is years ago, where he was giving an interview, and at the time it was surprising to me, but now, like, okay, it makes more sense. But he said that he makes more money off of witches than he does off of Batman, and so in many ways, it's just maybe more creators are just getting to the point where it's like, okay, as DC and Marvel maybe scale back on what their page rates are, it's like, it's actually to my benefit just to do an indie book now, because I'll make more money.
In all fairness, though, Scott may have been talking about like actual witches, and he's a pagan worshiper.
There you go.
Maybe a bunch of witches pay him.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting shops out there that have that especially big cities and stuff like that, large metropolitan areas. You'll have shops that specialize in new indie books, and I have nothing but respect for them. That's their area of expertise. That's their clientele. We have a very different clientele. So,
all right, Pele, let's talk about something that I know you're going to be excited about. There is a new Moon Knight series coming from Marvel. Now, we anticipated this likely was going to be happening. We know that Moon Knight is going to be coming into the MCU soonish. Got a pretty darn good cover from Steve McNiven. We've got Jed McKay on the series. What's your excitement level on a 1 to 10 on this new Moon Knight, Pele?
I'm 8. I'd say is a good solid 8. I'm optimistic. I'm sort of I'm hedging my bets here a little bit, but I don't think that it's I think it's going to head in the right direction. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the show's going to be like, and I'm excited for that. So
I've always had concerns about them doing, especially in today's climate, doing a Moon Knight TV show or movie, because all it requires is him jumping the wrong way one time and that hood kind of turning into a point, and all of a all of a sudden you're getting dragged on Twitter.
Well, it's only like a little partial cape like Shazam has, so it's not a full robe.
No, but he wears the hood. That's the point. And all it needs is a little wind catching underneath it, above his mask and below the hood. And that turns out really badly, really quickly.
I'm really hopeful that they're going to lean into the horror angle, and we're going to get to see awesome characters like Werewolf by Night, and and of course we're going to get Blade regardless. But we're going to get to see that whole cast of characters, that rogues gallery and anti-heroes gallery, that was part of that rich early 70s Marvel horror landscape. And
Oscar Isaac is playing Moon Knight, correct?
Pardon?
Isn't Oscar Isaac playing Moon Knight?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the biggest problem, Doc, because we're not going to see Apocalypse in the MCU now.
No, here's my problem. Oscar Isaac is a very, very good actor that picks fucking terrible projects.
He does.
Every single project he's in is bad, but
Ex Machina was good.
I hated
that was great. No.
That was a great movie.
Fucking hated that movie.
It's too deep for you, Doc. You didn't understand what was happening.
Wow.
I sat there and watched Darren Aronofsky films and been in awe. This was just pretentious nonsense.
I got to kind of go with Doc on this one. It was kind of
I just think you don't understand it either, Pele.
And
that's a take. That's a take from you.
But he picks terrible projects. So I'm a little concerned about the quality because, he's really, really bad about choosing what project he wants to get in. He does a good job in his role in it, but they always screw something up.
What do you think, Joe?
Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. These are also, I'm with you with Oscar Isaac. I like him in theory, but he's not always in the best things. More often than not, he isn't. But another thing too that's so bizarre to me is Moon Knight is one of the few really strongly well-established Jewish heroes in Marvel, and they didn't even like entertain the idea of casting a Jewish actor after they didn't for Batwoman 2, who's one of the most prominent Jewish heroes in DC. And that's some, like, out of everything, like all the social media fights for both for Batwoman and Moon Knight with Jewish characters, they were like, but, you know, casting anything else like that to me is really like,
well, they can pretend to be Jewish. You know, that's why they're actors.
They can act like it.
You know, they can act like they're Jewish. You know, I'm partially Jewish. I can act like I'm Jewish. You know, I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah, we do have a super chat.
I got a yarmulke over here. You know, I can put it on.
What's the super chat? Let's read it.
Super chat. I'm not into Moon Knight, but I like Oscar Isaac as an actor. Kenneth, I am sorry for everyone dogging on your boy there. What comic runs do you guys recommend I read to get ready for the show? Pele, what do you recommend to read to get ready for the Moon Knight show?
Oh gosh, there's some really good True Believers that have come out recently. See if you can snag those. Of course his intro, you know, Werewolf by Night, you know, that's fantastic stuff. The 80s series is staple must read. The second series is staple must read. The recent one was, you know, that ended I think a couple of years ago. I think it went at issue 2 with 200 issues. Fantastic. But yeah,
talking about Max Bemis's.
The
one
ended
where he
really,
turned Doug
really
Ernst
incredibly
into
well.
a Nazi.
It ended on a really awesome high note. It was a great series ender. But anyway, primarily go get the first run from the 80s in the late 70s, early 80s, and go get his early appearances at Marvel Spotlight rather. Yeah. And Werewolf by Night reprints, because God knows those those early issues are like unobtainium now. You get 32, you get 33 and 37 for a couple $100 bills now. But that 32 is just
I just like my Stephen Platt Moon Knight. That just 55 through 59. I'm fine with that.
But
on the Mark Spector Moon Knight run with Stephen Platt art, you could just see like god tier ultra jacked Moon Knight. It's kind of awesome.
Yeah, my recommendations now. The first one is just because it's the first Moon Knight series I read, so it made an impression on me. But I really liked the Charlie Hudson run. I thought that was really good. I know he's canceled right now, so maybe you can just put like a post-it note over the name. But Warren Ellis's run, I really enjoyed.
He's never canceled us.
And I like Jeff Lemire's run, but I really like Jeff Lemire as a creator, and I really enjoyed what he did with the character.
I'm recommending Age of Khonshu in Avengers. If you have not read that Jason Aaron story, you have missed out. As far as
don't worry, you can still find it on the shelf of every comic book shop because everyone else stopped.
You can find it in our dollar bin. Yeah.
Because every other person also missed out on it because everyone dropped Avengers because Jason Aaron sucks.
Well, Joe, do you have any recommendations to get ready for the Moon Knight series?
I don't know exactly what the source material they're mining is for it yet. Once they do that, obviously, check some of that stuff out. But
anything in print is probably what they're using for the source material. Right?
Yeah, it'll be out of print by the time the show. But really, anything that like Doug Menk wrote involving Moon Knight, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you very much to Darth Bobcat for supporting the channel. He's saying cancel Disney Plus coming attractions. He also wants to know, Joe, where are they going to find Jewish men in Hollywood to play?
Well, we're okay. What's the next?
Thank you very much, Darth Bobcat. Appreciate it. Thank you for segueing to the next topic. Doc, this is a Doc special if I ever seen one. We've got a new Phoenix host. We thought it might be, who was it? Who's the Devil Dinosaur girl? Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, but she did not win the tournament, likely slain by Wolverine, powered up by the Phoenix Force. it ends up being Echo. What are your thoughts on the new host of the Phoenix Force?
I think this is dumb, and I think everybody involved in touching the Phoenix that isn't named Chris
You're not allowed to
Claremont
touch the Phoenix. It's not
shouldn't be allowed to touch the Phoenix. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. You don't know what you're doing. That's Jason Aaron doing anything with the Phoenix is like, might as well give a child finger paints and ask him to fix the Mona Lisa.
Do you like Echo as a character? Did he pick the wrong character?
Well, Echo's a rather boring, bland
Benign
character. I mean, I guess because she doesn't have any other, place in the Marvel universe right now. Sure, I guess. But you could have really literally picked almost anybody else too. Hell, make Speedball the honestly, Speedball actually might have been a more interesting choice. But no, Echo's stupid and not interesting at all, and this is just a placeholder until Hickman's done and they can move the Phoenix Force back into the X-Men mythos again. Because they just don't want to use it right now. Because
I honestly thought it was going to be Dazzler.
No, because they're using Dazzler in the X-Books. It wasn't going to be a mutant.
No.
That's what it came down to. They're not
Clock Rabbit asks, didn't Echo lose to Namor? You are correct. Echo didn't just lose to Namor. Echo almost got killed by Namor and then somehow still won. So what was the point of the tournament, Doc? Riddle me that.
Jason Aaron wasting time and your money. That's the point of it, because nothing that he does matters at all. The only point of this was just for his weird, stupid obsession with having a 1 million BC Avengers. and trying to make that idea still happen.
Wasn't it important when we found out that Odin porked the Phoenix Force and that's Thor's mom? Wasn't that enough?
No, that was already too much. Letting Jason look, when there's some ideas that are really, really bad, and even when they're your premise ideas for the whole launch of your run, like Jason Aaron's 1 million BC Avengers was. Because remember, this stretches all the way back to Marvel Legacy. But at the same time, he's still trying to make this bad idea function and happen. And sorry, Jason, you're just not going to make fetch happen.
He just wanted a flaming woolly mammoth. That's all he wanted. He had this in his mind.
That was his Ghost Rider.
Yeah, that's what I mean, though. He wanted a flaming woolly mammoth, and that's the whole reason behind 1 million Avengers.
I forgot about that Oscar Isaac movie. Now I remember it, but yeah.
Thank you very much to Kenneth Dowling pointing out that Oscar Isaac has played a Jewish Nazi hunter in Operation Finale.
God. But so this is, hear me out, everyone. This is going to sound insane, but isn't it a little too much of a coincidence that this Phoenix tournament is going on at the same time as the tournament to decide who takes over Jeopardy?
The Phoenix takes over Jeopardy. Okay.
She reanimates Alex Trebek, and oh god, this is I'd watch that.
I thought they were going to have the guy that had won all a million times in a row and was just I thought he was just going to be there.
He hosted a bunch. Rodgers. We've heard Aaron Rodgers, LeVar Burton. Yeah, it could be Echo. We don't know who's going to be the next host of Jeopardy.
My understanding is the Aaron Rodgers ones have been the most well received by the audience.
LeVar Burton, it could be Rainbow Jeopardy.
Yeah,
Aaron Rodgers has a day job that probably precludes him from being a full-time.
Actually, no, he's real close to retirement, and he's
still making $30 million a year. I bet he's not ready to retire yet.
He will make more on Jeopardy. I guarantee it. If he won't pass up the opportunity, if it's given to him.
Yeah.
He'd
just
retire
said
early.
he's going to make more money hosting Jeopardy than his $30 million NFL contract does.
Yeah, because he's probably only got one more year left on that, and he'll make $5 to $10 million a year for the next 50 years. Being the Jeopardy host. But if he passes on this opportunity, he'll never get it again.
There you go.
There you go. So Iron's got a super chat in here, Joe. Would you produce the City of Bruce movie?
Hey, if they do it, I want EP. But I guess I'd accept producer, but I hope no one in Warner is in the chat and knows that I would be willing to settle for
Do not
a
insult
lowly producer.
my man Joe Corallo with a lowball producer offer when he's clearly earned the EP position on the movie.
Exactly.
So thank you very much to you, Iron. We've also got Lade Kramer supporting the channel. Since we know the Phoenix will destroy Earth, leading to Heroes Reborn, wouldn't have made sense for Shauna to win since she has Mother Earth role. Doc.
Yes. But you're expecting them to do things. You're expecting Jason Aaron to write anything that makes fucking sense.
Yeah, but Shauna would also do great hosting Jeopardy, I think.
Oh.
Actually, she would, especially if she's wearing like
as Shauna.
Yes,
like the leopard bikini. Hell yes! You realize how many people would tune in for that?
Absolutely.
I feel like we lost somebody.
We lost Pele, I think, right?
Hey, there you go. We lost Pele, and we're going to lose Joe sometime soon.
Yeah,
thank you very much to Kenneth for supporting the channel. What were you saying, Joe? Sorry.
No, I said, probably in the next few minutes or so, since I got to bounce around noon. But yeah.
All right, let's talk about the last topic. We've got the Falcon Winter Soldier episode 4. You got me in a little bit of trouble here, Joe. You were supposed to love that episode.
I'm sorry I'm not an automaton, Wes, and that I have thoughts and feelings of my own. But also it was I like that you got in trouble over my lukewarm 2.5 stars. It's fine. I'm still going to keep watching it review, as if I was trying to burn down the industry and cancel Disney Plus. It's like I'm watching it on my own Disney Plus on Friday every time it comes out. I'm not the problem. Unless you hate the show, then I am the problem.
What did you think, Doc? Were you impressed with the Falcon Winter Soldier episode 4?
You know what? I only had time for one of the 2 shows that came out yesterday, and I chose Invincible over Falcon Winter Soldier. I think it's a better show so far.
You trying to get me canceled?
Hey, no, I just think Invincible is fucking damn near perfect. It's a damn near perfect show.
Oh.
Winter Soldier just bombed at episode 2. That was just terrible. Absolutely terrible.
What about episode 4?
I didn't watch it because I stopped watching at episode 2. That was absolutely ridiculous. 68% of the audience just stopped watching at one point in episode 2. And for good reason. That's just trash.
Well, did anyone else watch episode 4, or is this over? I feel like we ended this already.
We might have finished this up, but
this is the end of the road.
Yeah.
We got a Boys to Men moment here.
Yeah, just if you like the show, keep watching. If you don't.
If they see the errors of their ways and they decide that we're not going to go down that route anymore, we're gonna stop dead in our tracks and we're going to not do this anymore, then I'll come back. I promise.
The whole series is already. I mean, it's only like 7 episodes.
Spoiler, just to let you know, the new Captain America beheads a man with his shield in front of the world.
Hello.
That's a bit much.
Okay.
You might want to check it out. It's a little different than maybe you were expecting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can get into this.
I just don't see how the 2 of the world's greatest heroes that just saved the flipping universe. Falcon almost gets gunned down in the freaking street like a dog when he just saved the universe and everybody in the whole world knows that he's a hero. I mean, come on. That's crap. Bad writing.
Well,
Poor writing.
There you go. It's time for some comic book recommendations. Joe, I know you need to leave. Do you have any comic books you'd like to recommend this week?
Sure. Scouts Honor #4 comes out next week. That's going to be good. My buddy David Pepos does that one. What else? Destiny New York issue 1 came out last week, or this last Wednesday. For Black Mass Studios, my buddy Pat Shan does that one. And I'd also, I'm going to do this with an asterisk. Green Lantern #1. If you like cosmic DC, if you like Legion of Superheroes, stuff like that, there's a lot of Easter eggs for Legion fans. If that's your thing, you'll probably like Green Lantern. I'm not as well versed in Green Lantern lore as some other aspects of the DC universe. If you're a big Green Lantern fan and you're not familiar with Legion, you might not dig this. But yeah, that's what I'd say.
I would need to say thank you very much to Kenneth Dowling for the $20 super chat. Very generous. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. And he's got something to say to you, Joe. And nobody likes you in your takes on Falcon Winter Soldier. So with all due respect, he loved it. He loved the dynamic soldiers, how the power corrupts and reveals who you are. However, Invincible is the better show, like Doc said. A Saturday cartoon with blood, guts, and heart.
Yeah, no, it's that's good. I'm more than happy for people who enjoy the show. I didn't think it was a terrible waste of time.
Feels like you're making it personal, Joe.
No, but I always lean towards I would rather if I not like something, like someone likes it, because I wish that was me sometimes, where I'm like, I wish I felt like I really enjoyed and had the best time. But yeah, it's fine. I'll probably end up watching it again at some point when I'm catching up to watch the next thing related with those characters. I am glad you loved it.
And I am glad that you supported the channel. Thank you so much,
Yes.
Kenneth.
Thank you.
We very much appreciate that.
Thank you.
And, Joe's going to pay for it. Don't worry.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to make sure that he does. And thank you for your recommendations, Joe. All right,
No
Jamie,
problem.
are you recommending any comic books this week?
Yeah, I've got some oddball hodgepodge. I've been a title that I've been pushing for a while. I don't think it has a new issue coming out, but there are 4 issues of it so far. And it's Kaiju Score by James Patrick and Rem Brew from Aftershock Studios, or Aftershock Comics, I should say. And it's just a really fun read. Basic premise is it's basically a heist, but it takes place during a kaiju attack. And so it's got a great setup of it really makes sense of kind of like Neon Genesis Evangelion, like that cities actually prepare for kaiju attacks, and it kind of allows for this team to go like, oh, it's a perfect opportunity to do a big heist, and of course everything goes wrong, and it's really good. On the graphic novel front, this is also one that came out a little while ago, but I just finished it this week, and it is Peter Tomasi and Theo Duvall's The Bridge, and it's just about the family that created I want to say it's the Brooklyn Bridge. I know I just read it this week, but yeah, it's the Brooklyn Bridge. It's really good. It's just a good kind of optimistic story. And then if I've got one more, and this is just on the crowdfunding front, there's a project that I'm excited about on Kickstarter called The Sparrow, that's currently funding by Calvin Huset, I believe is how the name is pronounced. I'm probably butchering it. That looks like a lot of fun. It's a good. Sorry, Doc. It's about a legacy character, but it looks really good. It's leaning into some of that Golden Age, Silver Age energy, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how that develops.
So I'm glad you brought up crowdfunded comic books. I do have Doug Ernst is going to be joining me here in a few hours after this. I've already got the conversation recorded. It's already produced. It'll be going up live, and he's going to be talking about why he decided to forego an Indiegogo and a Kickstarter, how his campaign's doing, and some of the reactions that he's received towards it. I think it was a very interesting conversation. I think everyone will like that. So thank you for reminding me of that, Jamie, very much. Kenneth Dowling, thank you for supporting the channel. I always like Joe's takes regardless. Have a great weekend, guys. Read more Donny Cates. He's the shit. There you go.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kenneth. I wish more people agreed, but
and so thank you very much for that. All right, Doc, what do you recommend this week? You recommend Marauders or
No, I literally didn't read a single X book this week because there wasn't any that I consider to exist. Venom was pretty good. I'll let Pele recommend King in Black.
No, go ahead. That's
okay.
That's,
King in Black.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm really recommending is you going and picking up Invincible back issues, or the compendium, or the they have these great. There's 12 volumes of the Invincible Ultimate Collection that's in hardback. It sits on a bookshelf. Volume 9 bugs me because the color on the logo changed from yellow to red for only that one issue or that one volume, and it really I don't even have OCD, and it like triggers OCD in me. But the series fucking amazing. And finally, the Jupiter's Legacy and Jupiter's Circle miniseries from they're older, from Mark Miller and Frank Quitely on the two Jupiter's Legacy. I can't remember who the artist was on the two different Jupiter's Circle miniseries. But especially since they just dropped the trailer for the Jupiter's Legacy Netflix series. It's a great story. Definitely pick it up. And I think too many people slept on it when it first came out. I know I slept on it until I think right at the beginning of volume 2 of Jupiter's Legacy. And then I picked up all of the first volume too. And I'm like, wow, this is awesome.
Awesome. All right. Now I actually have to go. All right.
Bye, Joe.
See you guys.
Bye, Joe.
Thanks so much
See
for
you,
having
Joe.
me.
Bye, Joe.
All right, Pele, what do you recommend?
Okay, Venom 34, Slam Dunk, ties into King of Black. Great issue. I really thoroughly enjoyed reading. DC Swamp Thing #2 is wow. You know, I'm really hyped over Swamp Thing, and I have been since the Future State, and this is my favorite DC title right now, and I've very much enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to reading future issues. And as far as indies go, Chasing the Dragon #2 came out, and that's my big indie pick from so far the last few months. And I like the premise. I like the storyline and the writing. The artwork is very fetching, in my opinion. It's fetching. It's attractive, and it's painted artwork, and you know I think it's well implemented. It fits the story really well, and but I'm telling people to pick it up. Small print runs on that book, and maybe a little bit more difficult to acquire copies, but it's well worth your time to investigate and look for them.
This is a big week. Besides the King in Black stuff, it is a big independent comic book week. We got Nottingham #2. I believe that's from Mad Cave Studios. Resistance Uprising #1. J. Michael Straczynski over at AWA Studios. And also, if you like Matt Kent, and I do, he's got a book. I believe is it Boom Studios right now? It's called Fear Case. It's his first horror series, and I quite like it a lot. So there you go, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this, and definitely be looking out for that Doug Ernst interview here in a few hours on the channel.
Wash